So back in July, I did a final thoughts review on my pedal board that I built last year, and a lot of the upgrades I put on the board, but I also had some comments on things I would like to look at in the future to install on the new board. And it just so happens this last week I had some extra wood and some time on my hands, and I wound up putting those ideas to use. What I wound up doing is making the board not only lengthwise longer, but widthwise longer. And that was for two reasons. One, I wanted the space lengthwise to organize the pedals correctly and make sure I have enough room for the top row and a bottom row. And widthwise was to make sure I have room to basically provide a buffer zone so no one knocks the cables when it's installed. And the second reason was to maybe in the future basically build a top to cover all the pedals, so if I go to gig around or if I go to move, I can pack all these things up and all my pedals are covered and secured. A lot of the ideas that I came up with came from my very first prototype and sitting back and thinking, how can I basically redo this better? So this time around, I wound up concealing all of my screw holes and minimizing the amount of screws I use, using brackets instead of middle support beams. Wound up using a router and stain this time around, velcroed the whole board, laid out the pedal boards evenly, routed larger holes for cable routing, velcroed even those parts so when I push cables through, a lot of those LED lights doesn't shine up in my eyes. And so what I wound up coming out with was something that I was super proud of and is the board that I wanted to have in the very first place. So I took some video shots explaining along the way and took some pictures. So I wanted to put all those together and let you guys see the difference of what my first prototype board was compared to my second one. And originally I was super proud of my first board, putting everything together, and it wasn't until I put this new board next to it that it looked super just beat up, just not thought through. But that's ideas behind prototype boards. But for me, this was something that I'm super proud of to put on stage now and to display. There is very little I want to change on this board. For the second one, it might be only because I get something that's size-wise different or longer that I have to reconstruct a board, and even then, I might just pull the top face off and put a brand new face down. And that kind of idea came from someone else on YouTube, where they had built a frame and they installed different pedal sets from whatever gig they wanted, and I thought that was a pretty cool idea. But for the most part, I'm really excited how this looks. I'm pretty excited that I limited the clunkiness, the very odd amount of screws that was on there, and so when I put graphics on there, it's going to look fantastic. So I want to show those pictures and videos to you guys, and I talk through a lot of those parts while I'm building it. So if you have any questions, please post them below. I'd be happy to help you guys and answer some of your concerns if you are building a pedal board yourself and have some thoughts and that maybe what you want to look for, maybe things you haven't thought about. So take a look, and I'll see you guys later. Alright, so I'm at the very tail end of getting this project wrapped up, switching from my very first prototype board to my second prototype board, and it's been a super fun and interesting ride, but I will tell you, trial and error has pretty much built my second board. So right at the gate, if you're looking to build a board yourself, I definitely recommend going on Google, look up a whole bunch of different ideas on what you're looking for. Definitely build something within your skill set, but you're looking at a budget, you're also looking at ideas of things you have that you want to incorporate, maybe things in the future. For me particularly, I didn't want to deal with an angled board, only because a lot of my stuff right now is already angled. I have a lot of foot pedals in too. So with that, a flat Euro style board was the best suited for me. Something that would just fit my board, as well as just enough for my handle space to carry. So anything going above or rather wider than my shoulders is going to be too much carrying around. So I built my first board with some simple pine wood that was in the garage. It was very caveman wise built, a lot of screws. So let me go through, look at this board real quick. I'll show you what I built, things I don't like, and then we'll go over to the next board and show you some of the things that I improved on, and there's quite a big difference, so let's get to that. Alright, so this is the smaller board. Width-wise, it's about 4 inches shy of what the new board is, and it's about 8 inches shy lengthwise from the new board. As you can see, super noticeable on all the screw holes. Even though they're symmetric, not too much fun. A lot of knots in this wood. The rough cuts are just that, they're rough cuts. Nothing too crazy. The idea behind this board was something simple. Looked kind of like a log cabin. I wanted that old pine look. So I went ahead and just made 3 pieces of lumber, 3 high, stacked them, put a box around it, and that was that. Nothing too crazy. And what I wound up doing later on was installing a light indicator and a flip switch. I routed a really rough job here of a spot to put my power supply. Later on, I went ahead and routed out some patch cable windows, and there was a small circle that I used for a few cables. And what I wound up finding out after doing all these these small cuts to make it look really cool was I had this piece of wood here. So every time I needed to move cables or reroute cables, I had to unscrew both of these boards and this middle board, push this board out, and remove the cables around, which is not what you want. Once you put something together and everything's velcroed down, you don't want to keep removing it. So I did not like that. I did, however, like the idea of, let's go down here a little bit, of this recess. I like the window and this back area open only because when I have LEDs, I want the LEDs to shine through. I did not like when I had this middle space here that the LEDs would wrap, so I had more light here than not on the sides. Routing everything was a nightmare, but overall the board was functional. It worked. It was a bit it had tons of ideas from different boards that I saw, and so it was a collaboration of different things. And as you can see right here, I went ahead and recessed cut holes so my rubber feet on my boards didn't have to come off. So I like those ideas. So really, I mean, just is a collaboration of a whole bunch of different stuff that I saw from other people. Moving on to my new board, I'm just really happy with how this was done. So this is cabinetry wood. It's 3/4 inch. The entire board and construction and supports are all 3/4 inch. It's a little more thicker. It has a nice, cool feel to it. Definitely like it when it's lacquered. Things that I improved on. The screw holes are gone. Once I recessed the screws, I put wood plugs, cut them down, and you can't see it anymore. The one thing I wanted to do here was do dovetails, or maybe rabbited dovetails. Because I didn't have longer wood, I couldn't do that. So this was a second alternative. Went ahead and extended, instead of having this come all the way across, extended this over and then did a nice curve into it. These are rounded, was it a half round router bit? So these are all rounded off and smooth from both sides. Use pecan stain on all of the wood, and then there's a poly resin going on top of it to get it nice and smooth. The IEC is routed, but this time I recessed the IEC, so that's different, and I like that feel. So as you can see, I have, just aesthetic wise, everything's coming together. Visually, I just like the way it looks. There's no knots, there's no nasty cuts, everything is thought out, which is what I wanted this board to look like. And as you can see, the back and the front are cut symmetrically in the same way, which was a huge thing I wanted. The difference in this board is, instead of having handles mounted, I wanted something that, because this board is longer, I can't have my knuckles stick out through doorways. So what I did is went ahead and cut handles into it, rounded off the handles, and this is almost 2 inches shy on this side, going out to 1.25 inches on this side. So when I pick the board up, I can grab underneath, pick it up, and move it. Going over the board, the reason for this extension was to hide my power switch, or my power strip. So these are being hidden right here, and it's out of sight, out of mind. Coming over here, we have another routed area, nice and clean for the indicator switch and the lamp. All the access holes are now cut, and they match exactly with where I need them. So for example, this, when I flip this over, is going to be 4 pedals. To the very front, as you can see, I went ahead and continued that idea of making patch cable routing holes. So the difference from this board to the other board was that I could only fit 2, and that was staggered pedals in addition to my line 6. What I've done here is I've been able to extend my pedal outwards, match up 2 pedals on the top, 2 pedals on the bottom. And with that, I went ahead and had routing holes for the patch cables. And I also have power cable holes, so those can go right to the cable. And I don't have to worry about cables coming through and being wrapped around on the top of the board. Everything is routed right here. The indicator light and the switch, nice clean route right here. That's open for that. What I'm going to do is this cable is going to wrap around right here, and it's going to connect and be out of the way. This cable right here is a 1 supply power adapter, and this is the transformer for it right here. This one is going to be connected to a daisy chain, and that's going to power my 2 LED lights on the board. So that's going to go right here symmetrically, and it's also going to power the 2 over here and the 2 over here. Coming over some more, I went ahead and drilled out a hole for the power for the line 6, a preset hole for a Variax connection that I'll have later on if I choose to. I have my effects loops. So effects loops right here. I have my guitar in and out for the pedals right here. And then I also have power, some right here, and I have another power right here. So everything from the back of the board is going to be super compact. I'm not going to have to fight to move anything. Everything is nice and even and flat. Alright, so I've laid out both of the boards side by side so you guys can get a comparison. Don't mind this one. So, off the top, we have the pre-drawn holes for the pedals. Routing cable right at the top so you can't get to these easy. Mission line 6, and this is the problem. So, I have enough space for 1 pedal here and 1 pedal here, not 2 by 2. It just doesn't allow for the space. The other problem was right here. These cables are coming out, and they're able to be hit walking around on stage. The line 6 pedal was from the edge to the edge, which means the power cable is sticking off of the pedal board. So again, it's susceptible to someone accidentally hitting it and breaking the switch. The difference on this, as you can see, the board is a little bit longer, and what you're going to notice is that the board stops right here, which means this whole section from here to here is cable space. So I have room for the cables not to get damaged, and I also have room to add a topper to this without engaging any type of wires. Cable routing, like I showed you in the bottom, FX in, FX out, guitar patching cables in. This is for the secondary switch, 2 powers, cable routing slots, 2 powers, 3 cable slots. You might be asking, how come I didn't put one here? The reason for that is my G30 line 6 wireless system is going to be sitting right here, and there's no input jack in this side. So it works perfectly to have this side here, and then I have 2 switches that I won't be hitting at all except for engaging them on and off. I'll have a line 6 tuner that feeds from the wireless to this, and then these will be open slots for anything in the future that I choose to. So a lot of this is making room for new stuff, so I don't have to keep rebuilding boards. Now, you guys might be saying these are pretty big slots. Why did you make them so big? The reason for that is when we're dealing with patch cables that like pancake type or thick type of heads, you don't be messing with trying to shove these things through small holes. So as you notice, these are a lot of lines on here. I'm going to be laying Velcro out for my super loop type of cord. And what I've done is once I lay these over, some of these tapes are going to cover right over the hole. And I will cut a slit for the cables to come through. That way it mitigates the lights coming up, and it keeps the board nice and clean instead of having huge gaping holes through the back. But that's all thought out for a reason, and I wanted that type of feature. And all the boards that I've seen and boards that are purchased by manufacturers and by companies, they make holes about 3/4 inch wide for feeding cables back and forth. But overall, I'm super happy with how this board looks. I mean, coming from something simple and archaic like this to something that's stained and polyurethane, and it's thought out and methodical, and it's clean, even from the screws to the recessed IEC to the holes. It just looks a lot cleaner, a lot more craftsmanship than what this was. And again, this was my prototype board, and I knew that was my prototype board, and so that having that kind of look was okay with me, because I knew eventually I was going to build something like this. So this whole board will be covered in Velcro and or painted for sections that won't have Velcro, and it'll be one nice clean board that I'm really looking forward to. So once everything is done, on the back is what's missing is my graphic for the Jamboard No.2, and I'm hoping to make this a big thing and make some guitar pedal boards for people. But if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Other than that, I will see you guys later.